Hey, everybody. This is a very, very big day because today, August 17th, 2023, is the 3-year anniversary of when cybersecurity headlines first launched. And I want to introduce you to all the reporters, if you don't already all know them. First, Steve Prentice and also Rich Straffolino, who've been there since day one when we started 3 years ago. And also, we have Sean Kelly, who's been with us. How long have you been with us now, Sean?
Just over 2 years now, so almost the entire duration.
I wanted to start the show because there was nothing like this in this format in cybersecurity. And when I say like this in this format, I mean extremely short form. Just give me the daily news, like 8 of the top big stories, and give it to me in about 6 to 7 minutes at most, and give it to me every single weekday. And the other thing that was happening at this time was COVID, because we started in August of 2020. COVID was in full swing, and we saw all of our podcasts drop in numbers, and that's because people had stopped commuting. Well, it's interesting. This show was like immune to a commute because it was so short. People were listening in the morning as they were just getting ready. So you didn't need a commute to consume it. So I'm going to start with you, Steve and Rich. You were there since day one. Just think about when you started 3 years ago and today. What do you think were the biggest changes?
I think just simply the pace of the change in and sophistication in crime, the varieties of crime. There's never a shortage of things to talk about, and I'm always constantly amazed by the brilliance of the bad actors coming up with new ideas. So our job is made easier, unfortunately, by the creativity of the other side.
I would say the way that we have covered certain types of threats, like ransomware is a really good example, where not obviously ransomware when we started in 2020, a well-worn tactic, ransomware as a service, a thriving market. But the idea that we are now seeing it almost treated on like an industrial scale. We see like economic impacts of like GDP. We're seeing it impact like whole sectors of certain industries. The scale has been like the biggest thing I've seen.
So, Sean, you started with us a little over 2 years ago, and you were originally a fan. What did you like about listening to as a fan? You were like, oh, I'd love to be a part of the team.
I love exactly what you said with the format. Doing a short commute, you can get caught up on the news, stay on top of things. And I mean, we've talked about messing with the formula a little bit amongst ourselves and our producers. And I think we've really landed on mostly we don't need to change very much, except maybe some tweaking about how we maybe package things together in terms of ransomware, in terms of the bugs. I agree with what the other guys said about, the sophistication of attacks. When I joined, Colonial Pipeline had just happened, like just right when I started, I think 2 weeks later. This was the first one that really affected supply chains and seemed to have a broader impact. And then, of course, Russia-Ukraine war. And now I'm sure we'll talk about AI.
One of the things that I hear consistently from our audience is at least one of these stories comes up every single week in our meetings. And they love listening to it because, it's this quick and easy way to stay up on the news. The fact that we can give it to them in audio format is a huge boon for the busy CISO who can essentially multitask. What's the feedback you gotten from the audience? And has any of it been critical feedback that you sort of shifted gears as a result too?
I can't say shifted gears, but I did pick up on that comment about how many CISOs do take these stories to a meeting. And so when I'm selecting the stories for the morning newscast, one of them might be in Australia, and knowing full well that the majority of our listeners aren't in Australia, the point is still there's something in that story that a CISO can go, that could happen here. What should I think about? And I'll say the best indication of, let's say, uptake and appreciation that I have seen is requests for connection on LinkedIn. Honestly, when I see people ask to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's because they see some value of being a connection, and they're all in the CISO community. And that is a great honor for me. I really enjoy that.
I will say the greatest shock that I have seen from this show is the fact that people listen to daily news for up to 4 months, sometimes 5 months after the shows air. And we get consistent traffic on daily news 4 to 5 months after the fact. I do understand, because some people, what they'll do is they'll consume the whole week of news in one sitting. So they'll batch those all in a row. Sean, Rich, what about you? What's the feedback you've gotten from the community?
A lot of it is, hey, you're a part of my morning cup of coffee, like that kind of stuff. And I love that idea as someone who will still sit down with a newspaper. Like I know that space is sacred for a lot of mornings. It's maybe your 5 minutes of sanity or something like that. So it does mean a lot to me to know that we're valued enough to be brought into that space. And to kind of echo what Steve said, we've also gotten some feedback just in terms of sometimes we will include stuff that isn't, it is cybersecurity news, but we are making that connection. There's been a lot of stories in that space that might be outside of your usual feeds if you're just searching for cybersecurity. But I feel like we do a good job of giving that executive summary to say like, hey, here's why this may matter down the line. Same thing with, a lot of crypto news that we will give some coverage for the big stories. Again, kind of this might be outside of your typical wheelhouse. We can give you that summary, connect the dots, and maybe, point to how this might impact your organization, either in an attack vector or something like that.
Actually, I would welcome more constructive feedback about things that we could do better. I think that, as much as we don't want to hear we suck.
Well, that's not constructive feedback when someone says you suck.
Doing this job is it's a different animal altogether. I just found that out quickly just doing a 7-minute.
And I must say you ramped up very quickly, very nicely. I was quite impressed.
The critiques I got the most were from David, and I mean that in the best possible way because I needed them. If I listened to the early podcasts I can't even listen to them because they're cringeworthy. So, I appreciate it, and it speaks to the quality that I think you want the show to have. On the cool side of things, like some of the feedback I got initially were my former boss and CISO, he's like, holy crap, you're podcasting. I listen to this every morning, and I got that from several of my colleagues. I got it from, I do some work at University of Albany. Some of the listeners there that had heard me speak and recommend this podcast before I even worked on it said, now you're working for the podcast. That is so cool. So just like little connections like that.
That's awesome.
And the only other call out I'll say is we have stickers now, which is cool.
Yes. Well, I've adorned my laptop with them.
They're very stylish. And if you want some, you could probably reach out and get some. But I put a link to that effect out there, and a number of people in the community that I didn't even know made connections, kind of going back to Steve's point about just connecting with the community and asked for stickers. So I mailed them out, and I'm happy to do so. And I'm sure anybody here would be too. So that's the cool part about doing this job is it's really about the people and making the connections, and then also nerding out occasionally on technology as well.
We are consistently on the top 10 lists on Apple Podcasts in the US for tech news every single week. We're in the top 10. This week, we're in number 6. We're always hovering between like 4 and 7, I see every week. So it is incredibly impressive given the caliber of the other podcasts that are on the list and the fact that we're a niche within technology on top of it. So I just want to say congratulations to all three of you for doing such an awesome job. We do have plans to grow it in the future. We have plans to grow CISO Series in the future as well. And I just want to say, 3 years, extremely well done. We've built a phenomenal audience and it just keeps growing. So thank you all for making this happen.
I never got a sticker.
You never got a sticker? I'll get you stickers.